Welcome back to Silent Rupture. I hope you all are enjoying Affinity Chaos and Necromancer of the Shadows. Consider subscribing the channel and leave a like. Let's continue Necromancer of the Shadows. Chapter 1081 Shaldic, Part 1. Primordials. Evan's expression changed when he heard Valerie and he instantly thought about his core. My core is a primordial monarch core. Could it be that the little girl Valerie mentioned in her dreams also had a primordial monarch core? He wondered, finding the idea plausible. There are 5 monarch physique holders, and all 5 of them possess a monarch core. If I go by this logic, then it's definitely possible that there are people other than me who possess primordial monarch core instead of regular monarch cores, he muttered to himself with a thoughtful look on his face. If what I just thought is true, then doesn't it mean there might be people even more powerful than Baphomet and the other monarch physique holders? Although it was just a guess, Evan felt that those with primordial monarch cores should be stronger than Baphomet and the others. As someone who possessed a primordial monarch core himself, he was well aware of its advantages. Not only does it provide a greater boost in power whenever he advances to the next rank compared to other cores, but the advancing speed of a primordial monarch core is also faster than the others. On top of that, the skills and authorities that unlock each time he advances to the next rank are also more powerful than regular skills and authorities. Primordials, huh? Evan muttered in a low voice, and without realizing it, the corner of his lips arched upwards and a mocking and cold light flashed in his eyes. Valerie was a little confused when she noticed the cold look on Evan's face, unable to understand what he was thinking. You know, you currently look like a full-fledged young master of a big clan who's about to murder 1 billion people. She suddenly commented, recalling some of the novels she had read after coming to Earth to relieve her boredom. Hearing Valerie, Evan snapped back to his senses and subconsciously touched his face, surprised to find a cold smile there. What's with this sudden change in mood? Do I have a grudge against those primordials? He wondered, and his expression returned to normal. Well, considering Azeroth even beat down a lowly who claims to be a primordial, it might be possible. Otherwise, knowing his personality, although he's cold and ruthless, he wouldn't go around beating people for no reason. Evan took a deep breath to calm his unstable emotions and stopped worrying about the primordials. He was just a little surprised after learning that the little girl he beat down was a primordial. And according to Valerie, it was a complete beatdown, where the little girl who claimed to be a primordial couldn't do anything against him. Does this mean even among the primordials, I was at the top? Evan thought, and suddenly felt a bit more confident about handling the problem of the Tomb of the Ancient, which, according to Azeroth, will erupt in 6 years. NOVELBJN.C. Ohm. Young master, what are you thinking? Evan, who was lost in thought, suddenly heard a voice and his mouth twitched. He looked at Valerie, who was staring at him cautiously, and black lines appeared on his forehead. Looks like you've been reading a lot of novels after coming to Earth, he said in a low voice, and the next second, the white flame covering Valerie disappeared. As the white flames vanished, Valerie felt the pain from her soul increase and her face tensed up. Evan rolled his eyes at Valerie's tense expression and took out a light blue-colored fruit from his shadow storage. Eat it, he said, tossing the fruit toward Valerie. It'll speed up your soul's recovery. Valerie caught the light blue fruit Evan threw towards her, and a surprised expression appeared on her face. This fruit. She sniffed the fruit, and just from the scent, she felt a warm feeling spreading through her soul. Spirit fruit, low level rank 1, a spirit fruit that can heal and recover the spiritual energy of rank 1 core evolvers to some extent. Low level rank 1. Valerie looked at the rank of the fruit with a confused look on her face, as it was the first time she had seen something of rank 1. It's something from the world I was sent to after using the Tower of Ascension, Evan said in a light voice, seeing Valerie's confused face. In the Tomb of the Ancient, he obtained many things, and this low-level fruit was one of them. There were thousands of these low-level fruits in his shadow storage, which were completely useless to him since they couldn't restore his spiritual power. They were only effective on rank 1 core evolvers and below. The only reason he still had them in his shadow storage was that they tasted good, and Alora liked to eat them as snacks sometimes. Something from the world you were sent to. Valerie muttered in a low voice and didn't ask anything else. She ate the fruit in just a few bites and felt her soul slowly recovering under the energy of the fruit. Once Valerie ate the fruit, Evan scanned her body using his spiritual senses and noticed that most of the power of the fruit was dormant in her body, slowly being digested. It seems she can only eat one fruit for now as her rank is too low to refine the energy of rank 1 resources. He thought and decided not to give her more spirit fruit for now, otherwise, instead of healing, the excess energy of fruit might damage her soul further. Let's go back to Base City 5 for now, Evan said, and a wind barrier covered Valerie. The last time I broke the soul seal after coming out of the tomb of the ancient, I received vague information about the war between the primordials. Maybe, the dreams Valerie mentioned are related to that war, Evan thought as wind started to circle around him. Chap. 996. If I want more information about this war between the primordials, I need to break the next soul seal as soon as possible. Just as the wind completely enveloped Evan and he was about to return to Base City 5, he suddenly felt something and looked back. Whirs. Asterisk. The moment Evan looked back, the space not far away from him warped and twisted, and a portal appeared there. Rumble. As soon as the portal appeared, a terrifying aura burst outward from it, causing the entire Earth to shake. Chapter 1082 Shaldik Part 2. The moment the portal appeared, a terrifying aura that shook the entire planet burst out of it. Valerie, who was just a few meters away from the portal, felt a mounting crushing pressure bearing down on her and her face turned pale. Crack, crack. The ice covering Antarctica started to break apart, forming deep crevices that were hundreds of meters deep. The ocean started to churn and large waves rushed towards the coastlines. The terrifying energy waves coming from the portal were instantly captured by satellite, causing all the high-level hunters to look extremely serious because the energy waves captured were tens of times more powerful than those released by Evan during his fight against Valerie. Evan narrowed his eyes as he looked at the rioting portal in front of him, which was slowly expanding. As he looked at the portal, he sensed the existence of the world essence on the other side of the portal. Does this portal lead to Utopia? He thought inwardly, and with a wave of his hand, he lifted Valerie using the wind and brought her behind him, shielding her from the powerful aura coming from the portal. Just as Evan brought Valerie behind him, the rapidly expanding portal stopped, and the next second, boom, an even more powerful aura than before emerged from within. At the same time, Evan felt someone coming towards them from the portal. Crack, crack. Through his spiritual senses, Evan noticed the entire Earth was in turmoil due to the powerful aura, as if the entire planet would collapse under its pressure. Noticing the destruction caused by the aura from the portal, Evan narrowed his eyes and instantly isolated the portal from the rest of the Earth using a gravity field. As the gravity field covered the portal, the rioting Earth returned to calm. Valerie also sighed in relief when the aura coming from the portal disappeared and looked at it with fear-filled eyes. What the hell is this? Here it comes. Valerie wanted to ask what was behind the portal, but before she could, she heard Evan's low voice, and the next second, whoosh! The portal covered in the gravity field flashed, and a 2-meter-tall figure with a lean body that looked like a human walked out of it. The figure had an oval-shaped face, silver-colored shoulder-length hair, white eyes without pupils, and its skin was pale blue in color. The creature was wearing black and gold-colored armor and had a spear in its hand. The moment Shaldik walked out of the world, he felt the power of gravity pressing down on him, and a frown appeared on his face. Is this the power of the laws of the lower world trying to stop me? Shaldik thought as he felt the gravity field around him, isolating him from the outside world, and a smirk appeared on his face. He turned his head towards Evan, who was standing just a few meters away, observing him with interest as if he were a rare animal. Feeling the disrespectful way Evan was looking at him, Shaldik's eyes narrowed and the spear he was holding burst with piercing light as he stabbed in his direction. Boom! A sharp light shot out from the spear's tip and collided against the gravity field, but other than making some small ripples on it, the sharp spear light wasn't able to do anything else. How is this possible? For the first time since emerging from the portal, Shaldik's indifferent expression broke, replaced by one of shock. Even though it was just a normal attack, how can the law of this lower world stop it? He muttered in a stunned voice, looking at Evan, who was staring at him with a thoughtful look on his face, and finally realized something. No, it's not the power of laws that created this gravity field. It looks like my wild guess was correct. Evan suddenly muttered in a low voice and walked towards Shaldik. You are from Glacialheim, right? He asked after stopping just outside the gravity field. Hearing Evan, Shaldik's eyes opened wide. You are not from this world. No, vel, bjn.c, ohm. You are speaking as if you were born on this planet. Evan said with a roll of his eyes when he heard Shaldik. So, were you sent here by Winterclaw? Shaldik's eyes turned cold when he heard Evan and a murderous aura started to come out of his body. How dare you call His Majesty by his name? Evan ignored the murderous aura Shaldik was releasing and said with a mocking smile. So now even a monster who looks no different than an ice yeti likes to call himself His Majesty, huh? You bastard. Shaldik roared in anger when he heard Evan's mocking words and his aura of peak rank 2 burst outward as he once again used his spear to destroy the gravity field that was locking him down. Boom. A loud booming sound as if someone had detonated hundreds of kilograms of explosives resounded in tens of kilometers of area, but other than the loud sound, there was nothing else. Shaldik looked at the gravity field, which was still completely intact, and a look of absolute shock appeared on his face. How is this possible? He muttered in disbelief, unable to comprehend why even after using his full strength he couldn't break the gravity field. Since you're done, step aside. I need to check something out, Evan said in a calm voice upon seeing the shocked look on Shaldik's face, and with a simple wave of his hand, he pushed him aside from the front of the portal. I was wondering how I should get back to Utopia since there is no Tower of Ascension in this world, but now it seems I can return using this portal. He thought and tried to send his spiritual senses to the other end of the portal to assess the situation. But the moment he considered sending his spiritual senses through the portal, a sense of impending doom engulfed him and Evan instantly stopped. What is this dangerous feeling? He thought with a frown, sensing that he would be in great danger if he sent his spiritual senses to the other side of the portal. Just as Evan was pondering what might be on the other end, his expression changed. Damn, this sh*t is more serious than I thought, he cursed under his breath as his spiritual senses detected dozens of portals similar to the one Shaldik had emerged from appearing in different places across Earth. Chapter 1083 An Abused Possibility Part 1. Glacialheim is one of the most important cities in the Frozen Monarchy Empire. There are many reasons for this, but the two most important are, first, Winterclaw, the Ice Monarch, lives in Glacialheim, and second, the people of Glacialheim are special. Unlike the other inhabitants of the Frozen Monarchy, the people who live in Glacialheim are different. While there are tens of different kinds of species that live across the Frozen Monarchy Empire, in Glacialheim, where Winterclaw resides, there is only a single species living in the entire city. This species is called the Glaciferns, a unique race fully loyal to Winterclaw and possessing very high talent, and most of the people of this race can become high-level core evolvers. Before entering the Tomb of the Ancient, Evan had sought information about all the powerful species he needed to be wary of after entering the tomb, and the Glaciferns were among them. Although he didn't encounter anyone from the Glaciferns species after entering the tomb, he had seen their pictures, so the moment he saw Shaldik's pale blue skin and lean body, he immediately recognized that he was someone from Glaciferns. When he saw Shaldik for the first time, he was surprised. Just a few minutes earlier, he had guessed that Winterclaw hadn't sent his people into the Tomb of the Ancient because he was looking for Valerie, and now someone from his side had appeared in front of him. He was slightly serious when the portal first appeared and he sensed the existence of the world essence on the other end, but once Shaldik walked out and Evan felt that his aura was only at the peak of rank 2, he didn't worry too much about him. Even though people from the Glaciferns species were powerful, he couldn't care less about them unless he faced someone who had reached at least the peak of rank 4. Just as Evan recalled a few things about the Glaciferns and was thinking about the kind of danger that might be lurking on the other end of the portal, which gave him such a strong sense of crisis, he felt many portals opening in different places all across the Earth. Valerie, you're an S+ rank hunter, right? Contact your hunter comrades and tell them not to approach the portals that are opening all over the Earth, he said in a serious voice, looking at the silver-haired woman standing behind him. Portals. Valerie's expression changed when she heard Evan. You mean there is more than one portal similar to this one? Yes, tell them not to approach the portals if they don't want to die. Rumble. As Evan finished speaking, the earth once again started to shake, this time more intensely than before. Powerful auras, similar to Shaldik's, rose from different directions and the entire planet went into complete turmoil. Damn, what kind of lunatics did that moron Winterclaw send here? Do these people want to destroy the entire planet? Evan cursed as he felt the powerful auras emanating from different directions and released Zorda and his other shadow undeads. Capture those bastards and bring them here, Evan said in a cold voice, and nearly 100 of his shadow undeads immediately disappeared. At the same time, Valerie also used her bracelet to contact the high officials of the Federation, informing them not to approach the portals. While his shadow undeads left to capture the people who emerged from the portals and Valerie was communicating with the other hunters, Evan approached Shaldik. Are you going to speak on your own, or do you want special treatment before you start talking about why you're here and what you want to do? Hearing Evan, Shaldik didn't say anything and just stared at him with cold eyes. Under normal circumstances, Evan would have instantly killed him and turned him into a shadow undead to extract all the information he wanted, but currently, he was concerned that if he killed Shaldik or any other people who came from Glacialheim, it would alert Winterclaw, potentially leading to bigger trouble. Although it is difficult for high-level beings to come to a lower world like Earth, it doesn't mean it's impossible. If he killed Shaldik and Winterclaw discovered there was someone capable of killing the rank 2 core evolvers he had just sent, he might use high-level resources to send a high-level core evolver to Earth. Even if Evan could defend himself against a rank 4 core evolver, he didn't want to face one without good reason. The main reason for this was that Earth wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure of a battle between high-level core evolvers, and he wanted to avoid such a situation. But when he saw the cold look on Shaldik's face after asking his question, he knew that this guy wouldn't tell him anything. It seems you will not be telling me anything, Evan muttered in a low voice, and suddenly, the gravity field that had trapped Shaldik disappeared. The moment the gravity field vanished, Shaldik's eyes flashed, and he tried to attack Evan, but before he could. Since you don't want to tell me, I'll find out for myself. His face was grabbed by a powerful hand, and he heard a cold, chilling voice that sent a shiver down his spine. N-O-Vel-B in .c ohm. Soul search. Arg, Shaldik roared in pain as he felt as if thousands of ants were eating away at his soul. Evan closed his eyes and searched for the information he was looking for. Valerie, who had been talking to high-level hunters and instructing them not to approach the portals, was startled when she heard Shaldik's painful scream and looked behind with a stunned expression. He became so powerful in such a short time, she thought, recalling the terrifying aura Shaldik had emitted when he first emerged from the portal. When she had felt Shaldik's aura earlier, it had been like a heavy mountain, but in front of Evan, this guy couldn't even resist. Evan sifted through Shaldik's memories, and after a minute, he finally found what he was looking for. After getting what he wanted, like a piece of garbage, he tossed aside Shaldik, whose tongue was now hanging out of his mouth and who looked like a mentally ill person. So, my guess was correct, huh? Evan muttered with narrowed eyes. These guys were sent here by Winterclaw, and their task is to capture Valerie and bring her back alive. As Evan spoke, he pulled out a small, blue-colored crystal from Shaldik's storage ring. As he took out the crystal, it shone brightly, and a faint energy wave emanated from it, guiding him toward Valerie. At the same time, from Shaldik's memories, he also discovered that there was a peak rank 5 core evolver on the other end of the portal. If he had used his spiritual senses earlier to observe the situation on the other side, he would have been detected by this powerful being. These guys have no idea what this crystal is, nor do they know why they have to capture the person indicated by it. Evan said as his spiritual senses scanned the blue crystal he had taken out from Shaldik's storage ring. As he scanned it, Evan's eyes narrowed because he sensed a strong spiritual aura sealed within the crystal. At the same time, this spiritual aura had powerful fluctuations similar to those of a monarch core, indicating that the spiritual energy sealed inside belonged to Winterclaw. But why is this strong spiritual aura that belongs to Winterclaw reacting to Valerie? Evan muttered under his breath, and as he thought about what Valerie had told him about her dreams and all the events that had transpired, his eyes widened and an absurd possibility came to mind. Chapter 1084, An Absurd Possibility, Part 2. When Valerie told Evan about the dreams she often had, She described a long-eared man with black hair beating down a little girl. According to her, at the end of the fight, the man used a powerful ability called Sever, through a blurry-looking weapon whose appearance she couldn't clearly see. Although the weapon was blurry as if it was shrouded in a black fog, it still gave her a terrifying feeling as if she was looking at something far above her level. Upon hearing that the man used a weapon that gave her such a terrifying feeling, Evan immediately thought of the Halberd of Destruction. The first time he saw the World Tree after entering the closed world of Dryads, Evan had unlocked a memory related to the Universal Tree. In that memory, Azeroth used a blurry weapon whose appearance he couldn't clearly see to destroy the entire Universal Tree. At that time, Evan was confused about what kind of weapon it was and why he couldn't see it clearly. But now, Evan was certain that the weapon Azeroth used was the Halberd of Destruction, and the reason he couldn't see it clearly was because the concept of destruction within the true Halberd of Destruction was too terrifying. Even though he was only looking at the halberd in his memories, the concept of destruction it embodied could still affect him, which is why it appeared blurry and indistinct. Valerie's situation was similar to his. The halberd of destruction that Azeroth used in his fight against the Primordial was too powerful for her to look at directly, so it appeared blurred in order to protect her soul. No-vel-bjn.c-ohm. She said Azeroth used a skill called Sever on that little girl using the Halberd of Destruction. Evan thought and his eyes narrowed. Could it be that Sever is one of the moves from the Soul Slayer War Arts? Because the Halberd of Destruction Evan currently possesses is just a replica, he can only use the first 3 moves of the Soul Slayer War Arts and knows nothing about the others. But Evan didn't care about the moves of the Soul Slayer War Arts for now, because after guessing that the Sever ability Azeroth used might be one of the moves from the Soul Slayer War Arts, an absurd possibility came to his mind. Although Evan has knowledge of only 3 moves of the Soul Slayer War Arts, he knows that all the moves of this art are related to souls. And it is highly likely that the Sever move Azeroth used is the same. Since the name of the move was Sever and it was aimed at the soul of the little girl who claimed to be a primordial, Evan guessed that there might be a chance that because of this move, her soul was severed into 2 different parts. After being split into 2 different parts, one part of her soul was reborn as Winterclaw, and the second part. Evan looked at Valerie, who was still talking to the hunters, and a serious look appeared on his face. Of course, it was not just because of the name Sever that Evan made this guess. There were many other factors involved, especially the fact that Winterclaw's spiritual aura was reacting to Valerie. On top of that, there was a powerful soul strand inside Valerie's core that knew about Azeroth and that she needed to absorb the source of the Ice Monarch to evolve her physique. What is the source of the Ice Monarch? Evan honestly didn't know, but if he had to guess, he would definitely say it must be something related to the soul. Moreover, if there wasn't any relationship between Valerie and Winterclaw, she wouldn't have needed to absorb his source in order to evolve her physique. If my guess is correct and Valerie and Winterclaw are part of that primordial soul, then there's a high possibility that Winterclaw might have already awakened some of his memories about how I beat him down. Evan said while rubbing his eyebrows. This also explains why that guy hates me so much. According to Anastasia, if she had to pick someone who hates me the most in Utopia, she would pick Winterclaw without a second thought. Thinking of this, Evan looked at Valerie, who was still talking to the hunters, and felt a headache coming on. If she is really someone who was born because Azeroth severed the soul of that primordial, then doesn't it mean she would also try to beat me up if she somehow recovered her memories? Evan took some deep breaths to calm down, but even after taking several deep breaths, he still couldn't settle his boiling emotions. He looked at Valerie and without saying anything, disappeared from there, reappearing hundreds of kilometers away from her location. After appearing hundreds of kilometers away from Valerie's location, he looked toward the sky and roared in anger. FCKU, Azeroth, you bastard. Do you think I'm a janitor? Why do I have to clean up the mess that you created? You demon. Most of the monsters, who were already shaking in fear due to the turmoil caused by the opening of the portals, looked in Evan's direction with even more terrified eyes. The aura of hatred emanating from his body was so strong that all the monsters placed their faces on the ground and covered their heads with their hands, extremely afraid of the demon who was swearing like there was no tomorrow. Only after cursing Azeroth for a full 5 minutes did Evan finally calm down and nodded his head. After cursing Azeroth, or rather himself, he returned to where Valerie was. When he got back, Valerie had already finished speaking to the hunters and was staring at Shaldik, who was as good as dead. Seeing Evan return, Valerie wanted to ask where he had gone, but before she could, Evan spoke in a serious tone. "Valerie, contact your hunter comrades again and tell them I want to meet the leaders of the Federation tomorrow." "Huh?" Valerie responded with a confused expression. But Evan didn't give her a chance to question him and continued speaking. "And if they refuse to meet me, saying they don't have time or any other nonsense excuse, tell them to be ready to be murdered by me." Chapter 1085 Conspiracy. Along with Valerie and Shaldik, Evan returned to his house in Base City 5. No.bjn.com. After returning, he threw Shaldik into the backyard and didn't bother with him anymore. Due to the effects of the soul search, Shaldik's soul was heavily damaged, leaving him mentally incapacitated and unable to move. "Why do you want to meet the high-level hunters of the Federation?" Valerie asked Evan once they were back in the city. "I need all the information about how this world has changed, including top-secret intel. Initially, I plan to help the Federation deal with most of the high-level monsters on this planet in exchange for slowly receiving that information. That is also why Leon contacted you. But now," Evan said and his eyes flashed coldly. "Now, I don't have time to play games and delay it any longer." Was it a coincidence that Valerie appeared on Earth instead of the world domain after using the Tower of Ascension? And that he, too, was sent to Earth instead of the world domain after using the title owner of Eldoria City? Like it was not enough, just a day after his arrival, Winterclaw's people also showed up on Earth. Was that a coincidence too? In Evan's eyes, it wasn't a coincidence. If someone told him it was a coincidence, he would give them a hard beating because it was clear this was not a coincidence but a conspiracy. Since leaving the closed world of Dryads and entering the Forbidden Land, it felt like he was cursed by the primordial goddess of bad luck, encountering one strange event after another. From entering the map shop where some jackass with an artifact that could deactivate his abyssal shroud to meeting the people who kidnapped the little stone man and being mistaken for a demon who wanted to eat him. It was as if someone wanted to put him in a situation where he would have to use his title owner of Eldoria City to escape. Evan even started to believe that even if he had somehow escaped from the stone man, something else would have happened to force him to use his title. Perhaps someone might have detected his location when the abyssal shroud was deactivated in the map shop, and after escaping from the stone man, he would have met that person and had to use the title to escape again. All in all, he felt like someone deliberately wanted him to use the power of his title to send him back to Earth. And as for who or what wanted him to do that, there was only one possibility. The will of Utopia, which I went to look for in the Forbidden Land, Evan thought with cold eyes and took a deep breath. He didn't know why he was sent to Earth instead of the world domain, but he was certain that if he wanted to understand what was going on, he needed to meet the black figure he had seen in his memories. And to find out more about that figure, he needed information. He wasn't sure if the high-level hunters of the Federation knew about the black figure, but considering the large number of high-level hunters on Earth in just 15 years, which was very abnormal, he felt they must know something. This was why he wanted to meet them. While talking to Valerie, he was also monitoring his shadow undeads, whom he had sent to deal with the people who emerged from the portals. A total of 6 portals had appeared, including the one from which Shaldik emerged, and similar to him, the others who came through the portals were also at the peak of rank 2. Although these people were powerful, they were helpless when surrounded by nearly 100 shadow undeads and were soon captured. Evan ordered his shadow undeads to beat the captives into a near-death state and keep them alive for now, as he wanted to use soul search on them as well. Although he didn't gain much valuable information from Shaldik, he couldn't ignore the possibility that the other individuals who had been sent might know something. With this thought in mind, Evan left Valerie in Base City 5 and traveled to a secluded island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. On the island, Zorda and the other shadow undead stood surrounding 5 individuals with pale blue skin similar to Shaldik's. Upon arriving on the island, Evan wasted no time and immediately used soul search on the 5 captives. Unfortunately, similar to Shaldik, they only possessed basic information about the mission and had merely been instructed to capture the person indicated by the blue crystal alive and bring them back. This is troublesome, Evan muttered with a frown on his face and tossed aside a 2-meter-tall beauty like he was throwing away the garbage. Although he didn't kill any of the Glassifern captives, he knew it wouldn't be long before the person in charge of sending them realized something was wrong. With their souls heavily damaged, these individuals were as good as dead and couldn't go back. Initially, Evan considered altering the memories of Shaldik and the others using Gabu's mind intrusion skill, just as he had done with the elves in the Gehenna Empire. However, upon recalling that these individuals had been sent by Winterclaw and had direct contact with him, he abandoned the idea. While he might be able to fool ordinary high-level core evolvers using mind intrusion, he had no confidence in deceiving someone like Winterclaw. To use mind intrusion, he would have to tamper with the soul of the target. Although it was a very small change, it still wouldn't go unnoticed by individuals of Winterclaw's caliber. Since they sent 6 people here, it means they can't pinpoint Valerie's exact location on the planet, so even if these people don't go back for 1 or 2 days, no one would think there is anything wrong. Evan muttered in a serious voice and wind covered his entire body. I need to gather all the information by tomorrow and understand what kind of conspiracy is unfolding here. Chapter 1086 Winterclaw. Inside the city of Glacialheim, atop a towering ice mountain that soared tens of thousands of meters high, piercing through the icy clouds, stood a gigantic ice castle. The environment within the city of Glacialheim was entirely different from the outside world. Instead of a single moon, a full blue moon and a half-purple moon shone brightly in the sky, making it seem as if Glacialheim was not situated in Utopia but existed in a different realm altogether. Around the gigantic ice castle, dozens of people of Glassifern species patrolled the area. Their lean and tall bodies were clad in light blue armor and each of them held a long, sharp spear. They moved in perfect harmony, looking like an elite team of soldiers. Deep inside the ice castle, in one of the underground rooms where the temperature was so low that even a rank 5 core evolver would turn into an ice statue upon entering, a nearly 10-meter-tall monster, resembling a yeti and covered in silver-white fur lay on an ice platform made of pure white ice, madly absorbing the surrounding ice energy. Suddenly, the closed eyes of the monster opened, revealing dark blue irises. The moment the monster's eyes opened, the law of ultimate ice filled the surroundings, and under the monster's gaze, the space in front of it froze and solidified as if it could be shattered with just a touch. The giant monster took a deep breath through its large nose and the oppressive ice law that had engulfed the surroundings disappeared. Winterclaw sat up on the ice platform and looked down at his abdomen. As he examined his abdomen, the fur around his stomach area receded, revealing a small, golf ball-sized hole in the center of his stomach, shrouded in black energy. A deep blue-colored ice energy covered the edges of the small hole, preventing the black energy from spreading to other areas of his body. It's been thousands of years, but even with the ultimate law of ice, I still can't rid myself of this true law of death and soul. Winterclaw muttered in a cold voice, though there was a hint of helplessness within his voice. However, the slight helplessness in his eyes soon disappeared and he stood up from the ice platform. Leaving the room where the ice law was particularly active, Winterclaw entered a throne room and fur once again covered his stomach where the golf ball-sized hole was located. Sitting down on the throne, Winterclaw called out in an indifferent voice, "Cryolith." As soon as Winterclaw's voice echoed through the room, a 3-meter-tall man, clad in silver-colored armor and with pale blue skin appeared in the throne room, kneeling in front of him. "Have you found anything?" Winterclaw asked in a calm voice, looking at Cryolith, who exuded the aura of a mid-level rank 6 core evolver. "I just received the news yesterday." After repeated attempts over the past few months, the soul crystal given by His Majesty finally reacted to one of the lower-level worlds. Boreal has already sent some peak rank 2 core evolvers to capture the person you wanted. Hearing this, Winterclaw's dark blue eyes flashed and a look of surprise crossed his face. Boreal found the place so soon. There are thousands of lower worlds under Utopia, so Winterclaw had expected it to take a few years before he would receive any results, so hearing Boreal had already found something in just a few months, he couldn't help but feel shocked. I was also surprised when Boreal informed me yesterday. There are thousands of lower worlds, so I thought it would take him at least a few years to find the right place. But unexpectedly, just as he opened a portal to one of the lower worlds yesterday, the soul crystal given by His Majesty reacted, Krylith explained, his voice also filled with surprise. Winterclaw's mouth curled slightly upwards into a ferocious smile upon hearing Krylith's words, and he asked in a low voice, "Did they find that person?" Krylith shook his head and replied in a respectful voice, "We haven't received any news from the team we sent yet. There are a total of 6 peak rank 2 core evolvers who went to that lower world. According to the energy fluctuations, it should be a lower world that can barely handle the power of a peak rank 1 core evolver, so we should receive news from them soon. Even if they encounter the most powerful person in that world, it shouldn't be difficult for them to complete the task." Winterclaw was a little surprised when he heard it was a small world that could barely handle the power of a peak rank 1 core evolver, but soon, his expression turned serious. "Have you told them not to do anything foolish after entering that world? Since it's a world that can barely handle the power of a peak rank 1, it would be destroyed if any one of them used their full power. I need that person alive, so make sure they don't destroy the world and kill that person accidentally. No vel be in c ohm. Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will make sure nothing goes wrong," Krylith said in a serious voice upon hearing Winterclaw's concern. Before sending Shaldik and the others, he had already instructed them not to do anything foolish, so he was confident that aside from the brief moment of losing control over their power upon entering the lower world, they wouldn't cause any trouble. Hearing Krylith, Winterclaw nodded and waved his hand dismissively. "You can leave. Bring that person here as soon as they catch them." Krylith bowed his head hearing Winterclaw and disappeared from the castle. Once Krylith was gone, a cold smile appeared on Winterclaw's face. "Once I get the other half of the source, I will finally be able to rid myself of this," he muttered, looking at his stomach where the golf ball-sized hole, covered in the true law of death and soul, was located. "And once I get rid of it, I will definitely find that bastard and kill him." As Winterclaw finished speaking, he disappeared from the throne room and returned to the underground chamber filled with the law of ultimate ice. Chapter 1087. So, it's about to begin. While Evan went to the island to perform a soul search on the individuals who came out of the portals, Valerie also sought out Leon and spoke with him about what had happened in Antarctica. She made the excuse that they had gone to Antarctica for a friendly sparring match and it was nothing serious. As for why she had instructed the hunters not to go near the portals that appeared across the earth, she simply told him to meet with Evan the following day. Of course, even with Valerie's warning, it was impossible for the Federation to ignore the portals that had appeared all over the earth. So, once the Shadow Undeads captured the people who emerged from the portals and left, some high-level hunters went there to investigate. Due to satellite images, even though no hunters were near the portals when they opened, the high-level hunters still saw the Glassifern people with pale blue skin who came out of the portals and how they were captured by terrifying-looking black monsters. The hunters wanted to track where these black monsters took the people with pale blue skin, but the chaotic energy around the black creatures disrupted the mana in their surroundings, preventing the hunters from determining the destination through the satellite. Valerie was aware that even with her warning, the Federation wouldn't ignore the portals. Unlike her, who knew Evan and was aware that he was telling them not to go near the portal for their own good, the Federation had no knowledge of him and couldn't dismiss a potential threat just because he said so. Valerie was somewhat helpless regarding this matter, but she didn't care much. If the hunters chose to remain near the portals despite her warnings, then she couldn't be bothered with their fate. She wasn't familiar with most of the hunters in the Federation as she had only recently joined, and much of her time was spent searching for a solution to the soul strand residing in her core, limiting her interaction with the other hunters. Remembering the aura she felt when the portal opened in Antarctica, Valerie shook her head and sighed. If more people like those emerge from the portals, the hunters staying around the portals won't even get a chance to escape. She had been close to the portal when Shaldik emerged, so she knew how terrifying the individuals coming through the portals were. She was certain that if a few more individuals like Shaldik came through, they might even destroy the entire Earth. Earth was very different from the Aurora world, which was hundreds of times larger than the Earth. Even when millions of demons were summoned by the Dark Guild there, the world remained unaffected due to its large size. However, Earth was much smaller and couldn't handle high-end battles involving people like Shaldik and the others. Just who are these people? Valerie muttered with a sigh as she walked toward Evan's house after talking to Leon. She wanted to ask Evan who these people were and what was going on, but since he had left immediately after bringing her back to Base City 5, she hadn't had a chance to ask anything. When she arrived at the house where Evan was staying, she saw him sitting on the roof. Seeing that he had returned, she flew up to the roof and landed beside him. I just spoke to Leon and mentioned that you wanted to meet the high-level officials of the Federation. After what happened earlier, it turns out they also want to meet you, so you can meet them tomorrow, Valerie said as she landed next to him. Good, Evan nodded lightly, looking at the sky while deep in thought. What are you thinking about? Valerie asked curiously when she saw him lost in thought. Evan sighed at her question and rubbed his eyebrows. I am just thinking about how I should return after dealing with everything here. When Evan used his title, the owner of Eldoria City, he wasn't sent to the world domain. Instead, for some reason, he was sent to Earth. However, even though he wasn't sent to the world domain, his title still entered a cooldown state. Now, if he wanted to use it again, he would have to wait for 1 year, and it was obvious that he couldn't stay on Earth for such a long time. Even though the time ratio between Earth and Utopia was different, he didn't want to stay on Earth for long because he couldn't increase his strength while remaining there. Currently, his core was at the peak of rank 2 and he needed to deepen his understanding of the conceptual energy of the void to become a rank 3 core evolver. However, when he tried to increase his understanding of void energy, he found that progress was very slow. It was as if there was something on Earth that made it difficult for him to advance his comprehension of void energy. Even if he stayed on Earth for 2 years, he felt he might not be able to increase his understanding of void energy to 75%. When Valerie heard Evan talking about how to return, her curiosity was piqued. You said you were sent to a different world, right? Tell me something about it. Evan glanced at Valerie from the corner of his eyes and suddenly remembered how she had tried to find the Ice Monarch after arriving on Earth to take away his source, and his lips arched upwards slightly. Let's see if she will still think about taking away his source after knowing what kind of big boss that guy is. He thought to himself and began to tell Valerie about Utopia. While Evan was telling Valerie about Utopia, somewhere in an office room, a tall, bulky man, nearly 2.5 meters tall, was looking at a message he had just received. The message was about the meeting between the high officials of the Federation and Evan. The man had a rough-looking face, brown eyes, and his head was completely sunshine with no sign of hair. After reading the message, the bulky man closed the holographic screen and sighed. So it's about to begin, huh? The man muttered in a low voice before suddenly disappearing from the room. In an underground corridor, the surrounding air vibrated and the bulky man reappeared there. Looking down the underground corridor, the man took a deep breath and walked deeper, soon reaching the end of the corridor and stopping in front of a portal. He stared at the portal for a moment before stepping forward and entering it. Upon entering the portal, the man found himself in a small room with various types of runes engraved on the walls. He glanced at the runes, their faint glow illuminating the dim space, and then turned his head toward one of the corners of the room. In that corner, he saw a figure completely shrouded in black mist sitting silently. Seeing the figure, the man hesitated for a moment, but soon, he took a deep breath and continued walking toward the shadowy presence. He stopped a few meters away from the figure and spoke in a low voice. I think the person you were waiting for is here. Chapter 1088. Stay alert. We only have 2 hours left. Move faster. Clark, have you modified the formation? Yes, I just need to place the monster cores in the center, and it will be ready. Do it quickly, and don't worry about the consumption of cores. Load the formation to its limit so it can exert its full power. Yes, sir. Mike, what about the evacuation? Have you cleared out everyone within a 50-kilometer radius? It's almost done, sir. We just need 1 more hour. Good. If anyone doesn't cooperate, tell them a high-level dungeon is about to appear here, and there's a high chance of a monster breakout. Yes, sir. A man wearing a professional black suit shouted orders one after another through his smart bracelet. The man was just 170 centimeters tall, had short brown hair and a stick-thin body as if a mere gust of wind could blow him away. However, when the thin man moved through the building, barking orders, people quickly moved out of his way as if they were afraid of him. The man's name was Valerie, an A+ rank hunter, and he was responsible for arranging everything regarding the meeting between Evan and the Federation. Although it had only been 2 days since Evan appeared on Earth, and the hunters hadn't had an opportunity to gather much information about him, most of them did not have a good impression of him due to his actions since arriving. The first time he made his appearance, he accidentally released his aura, terrifying the hunters stationed in Base City 5 and nearly crashing their expensive energy detection radar. Then he requested to meet with a high-level hunter from the Federation, and when Valerie went to meet him, he took her to Antarctica. And according to Leon, he took her there to bury her 100 feet under the ice. As if that wasn't enough, after shaking all of Antarctica in a fight with Valerie, he even warned the hunters to stay away from the portals that had appeared across the Earth if they didn't want to die. Although they had no proof, most of the hunters believed that the portals that appeared across the Earth were related to Evan and that the people who emerged from them were after him. Not only that, but the black monsters that captured the Glassifern people were also likely connected to him. After causing all this chaos, the Federation received word that Evan wanted to meet with their high-level officials and had issued an ultimatum. If they didn't meet him, he would murder them. These words were delivered by their trusted informant, Valerie. After what had happened recently, the high officials of the Federation also wanted to meet Evan, but before doing so, they wanted to make some preparations. After all, the power that Evan had shown was simply off the charts. If they met him without any preparation, they were afraid that in the event of a disagreement during the meeting, a fight would break out. Unfortunately, because Evan gave them an ultimatum that if they didn't meet him, he would murder them, they had no choice but to make hasty preparations. As Valley stopped shouting orders after a few minutes, a tired sigh escaped his mouth and he entered a lift to go to the top floor of the building. Damn, I didn't sign up for this sh*T. I thought I just needed to work 6 hours a day, but here I am doing night shifts without even getting a bonus, Valley cursed under his breath, taking deep breaths to calm down. I hope the guy who is forcing me to do overtime would get eaten by a monster. Soon, Valley reached the top of the building and the lift's gate opened. He stepped out of the lift and headed toward the room located at the end of the floor. As he approached the room, the gloomy look on Valley's face was replaced by a professional demeanor. However, because of his sickly appearance, he looked like a seriously ill patient trying to act tough. Knock knock. Valley knocked on the door after stopping in front of the room and waited patiently. However, even after 10 seconds, there was no response. Seeing no answer, the professional look on Valley's face faded, replaced by his previous gloomy expression. He took a deep breath and the next second, N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Boom. He kicked open the door, entering without a care for the person inside. Mother fucker. Upon entering, Valley muttered under his breath as he saw a man, who appeared to be in his mid-30s, sleeping comfortably on the room's couch. Here I am, doing overtime without even getting bonus pay, and this bastard. Valley grumbled in a low voice and black smoke, releasing a poisonous aura gathered in his palm. Once the poisonous gas was concentrated in his hand, he hurled it toward the sleeping man, intending to make him sleep forever. But just as the poison gas was about to reach its target, the man sensed a danger and was jolted awake. Fu-K. The man cursed upon seeing the poison ball coming towards him and immediately jumped away from the couch he had been sleeping on. Sizzle. A sizzling sound echoed inside the room, and within seconds, the entire couch that had been engulfed by the poisonous gas disintegrated, disappearing from the room. Bastard, do you want to kill me? Boris, the man who had just jumped away, and the head of the Federation shouted in an anger-filled voice. What are you talking about, sir? There was a mosquito flying above your head. I thought it might disturb your peaceful sleep, so I just killed it, Valley replied with a professional look on his face. Damn it, I need to replace this psycho or one day he'll definitely poison me to death, Boris shouted inwardly as he took a deep breath. What's the situation? Is everything ready? he asked while sitting down on his office chair. Don't worry, sir. While you were busy thinking of a solution to kill all the monsters in the world your dream, I worked all night, and everything is ready. Boris' eyes twitched when he heard Valie's serious yet sarcastic tone, and he suppressed the urge to give him a good beating. What about the Code 6 formation? Is it ready? It's ready and can be activated at any time. Boris asked Valerie a few more questions, and after a few minutes, he nodded in satisfaction. Good job, Valerie. You are as reliable as ever. Boris said, looking outside the building through the glass window. It seems the others are here as well. As he spoke, a few lights flashed outside the building, and some S-rank hunters appeared. Valerie glanced at the hunters who had just arrived, then asked in a low voice, "What did you see in your dream this time?" Boris remained silent at Valie's question. After a full minute of silence, he looked at the stick-thin man in front of him and sighed. Stay alert, Valerie. Earth is going to experience another change soon. Valie's eyes twitched when he heard Boris and he turned to leave. Damn, I just want to live a peaceful life. Why is that so difficult? He once again cursed under his breath as he exited the room. About an hour and a half later, Valerie stood outside the Federation building. Suddenly, the air in front of him shimmered and out of nowhere, Evan and Valerie appeared. Chapter 1089 Secret of S+ Rank. Valerie's languid expression immediately turned serious when the air in front of him vibrated and Evan and Valerie appeared. Although Evan had restrained his aura, Valerie still felt his heart shudder, feeling as if he was standing before a monster rather than a human. Evan also paused slightly when he saw Valerie and a strange look appeared on his face. If it weren't for the aura of an A+ rank hunter around Valerie, he would have thought that the people of the Federation had kidnapped a patient from a hospital and had him stand in front of the building to welcome him. Seeing the strange look on Evan's face, Valerie's eyes twitched and he felt as if Evan was thinking something rude about him. It's been a while, Valerie. It seems you are being forced to do overtime. Noticing the strange atmosphere, Valerie said in a calm voice, breaking the awkward silence. She had met Valerie a few times in the past and had a good impression of him. Although he looked malnourished, as if he had been sucked dry by a succubus, he was quite capable and was among the most powerful A+ rank hunters. Valerie nodded in response to Valerie and sighed. Yes, I feel like quitting my job and going somewhere in the countryside to live a peaceful life. As Valerie spoke, he looked at Evan and his expression turned serious. Please come with me, all the people you wanted to meet are already here. Without waiting for Evan's response, Valerie turned around and started to walk into the building. Evan was speechless when he saw this and wondered why this guy was in such a hurry. Valerie smiled when she saw this and said to Evan, "Don't worry about him, he just wants to finish his work as soon as possible so he can go back and rest." Well, Evan looked at Valerie's stick-like body and nodded his head. I understand. Vel-B in .c ohm. As Valerie led Evan and Valerie towards the meeting room, Evan's spiritual senses covered the entire building, revealing everything happening within it. From the formations to all the high-level weapons, nothing was hidden from his sight. To his surprise, he even noticed a few high-level weapons that looked like mana cannons installed in the building. The power level of those cannons was nearly reaching mid-level rank 1, completely surpassing the S rank. Not only that, even the attack and defense formations that covered the building were even more impressive. The defense formation was powerful enough to withstand a few attacks from a peak rank 1 core evolver, and the attack formation was strong enough to heavily injure a peak rank 1 core evolver. There is definitely something wrong with the growth of the Earth, Evan thought, feeling stunned after noticing the power of the mana cannons and formations. Even in the Aurora world, he had not seen such powerful formations, and unlike Earth, which had changed just a little over 15 years ago, the people of Aurora world had been evolving for hundreds or even thousands of years. Could the growth of Earth be related to that black figure? Evan mused, and ignoring everything else, he focused his senses on the underground area of the building. After scanning the underground area with his spiritual senses and finding nothing, a frown appeared on his face. Oi Valerie, where is that special dungeon you talked about yesterday? There is nothing in the underground basement of this building. Are you sure it's in the underground area? Evan's voice suddenly sounded inside Valerie's head, making her pause for a moment. It's hidden by a formation. I went there about 3 months ago, Valerie replied without any change in her expression. Hidden by a formation. Evan narrowed his eyes when he heard Valerie, and his spiritual senses surged with full power, covering the entire underground basement. The previous day, after telling Valerie about Utopia, Evan had asked her how she had evolved her core to S+ rank. In response, she told him about a dungeon in the underground basement of the Federation building. Clearing that dungeon grants an energy pearl as a reward, and refining that energy pearl can evolve one's core from S rank to S+ rank. According to her, most of the monsters inside the dungeon were S rank, and even for S rank hunters, it was very difficult to clear this dungeon. Over the years, only 8 hunters, including her, had successfully cleared the dungeon and become S+ rank hunters. Knowing that the dungeon was in the Federation building, Evan wanted to take a look at it while he was there. Strange, even after using the full power of my spiritual senses, I can't find that dungeon. Evan muttered to himself with a thoughtful look on his face. His current spiritual power was nearly comparable to that of a peak rank 3 core evolver, and he was certain that it was impossible for a formation to hide the dungeon from his senses. If that dungeon really is in the underground basement of this building, then it's definitely not just a formation hiding it from me. Evan thought with a smirk on his face, and suddenly, without anyone noticing, a black shadow separated from him. You can hide it from my spiritual senses, but let's see if you can hide it when I go there myself, Evan thought as he looked at his shadow clone, which was moving towards the underground basement under the invisibility effect of Shadow Walk. Have you found anything? Valerie asked after a moment. Evan had told her about the serious side effects of promoting one's core to S+ rank, so she was also upset about this incident. If it hadn't been for the aura of the Monarch core, which increased the potential of her core, she would have lost a large amount of her life force. Nothing for now, but I should get some results soon, Evan said calmly as he stepped out of the lift, along with Valerie and Valley. The meeting room is at the end of the floor, Valley said as he led Evan and Valerie to the far end of the top floor. Upon reaching the room where he had previously met Boris, Valley opened the door and gestured for Evan and Valerie to enter. Evan nodded at Valley and stepped inside the room with a calm expression. However, the moment he entered, he felt something unusual and his eyes narrowed. He slightly turned his head, and his gaze landed on a tall, bulky man with a bald head. Chapter 1090 Origin Rune Essence Part 1. As Evan entered the room, he saw a total of 11 people seated around a long table. However, of the 11, only 5 were present in person, the remaining 6 were holographic projections. These high-level hunters had to guard dangerous locations on Earth and couldn't leave, so they joined the meeting virtually. Evan didn't mind this arrangement. The reason he had threatened to murder them if they didn't attend was to prevent any future complications. He wanted to avoid a situation where the hunters might claim that decisions couldn't be made because some high-level hunters were missing or make other excuses. Now that most of them were present, whether in person or by projection, he was satisfied. Among the 11 people in the room, 4 were female and 7 were male. Valerie had informed him that there were a total of 8 S+ rank hunters on Earth, and all 8 were present in the room, including Valerie. 3 of the S+ rank hunters were female, and 5 were male. As Evan and Valerie entered the room, the eyes of all 11 hunters turned toward him. However, when the 5 hunters who were physically present, including Boris, saw Evan, their expressions changed because they sensed an unprecedented danger emanating from him. This was because Evan had deliberately released some of his aura to prevent them from doing anything foolish in the future. Boris's expression grew solemn as he felt Evan's aura, but he remained silent. Instead, it was Leon's projection that spoke first. "See, even though you guys left without me, I still arrived here before you." Since Leon was the only one who had interacted with Evan before, Boris and the others decided to let him take the lead during the meeting. "Do you want me to come and bring the real you here?" "It would only take a few seconds, you know," Evan said in a light voice when he heard Leon as he sat down on the chair at the opposite end of the table. "Forget it. What if you suddenly decide to blow up the entire building on a whim?" I don't want to be there when that happens, Leon said with a shake of his head as if he was joking, but only he knew how serious he was. Although Leon said this in a joking voice, Boris and the other 4 hunters, who were present in person, tensed up at his words, feeling that perhaps they too should have joined the meeting via projection. Do you think I'm a terrorist? Evan rolled his eyes and replied lightly. The reason I asked to meet all of you is that I have one simple request. As long as you fulfill it, I won't do anything. Boris's expression turned serious at Evan's words and he asked in a deep voice, I wonder, what is your request? Evan looked at the brown-haired Boris and asked in a calm voice. You are. Actually, because he used his spiritual senses earlier, Evan already knew the names and identities of all 11 hunters in the room. The reason he politely asked for Boris' name was because when he had used his spiritual senses earlier, he had overheard Boris expressing his opinion to avoid conflict with him. Since Boris wanted to avoid any conflict, Evan also decided to act more courteously. After all, he also didn't want to make trouble for Boris and others for no reason. Boris was slightly surprised when Evan politely asked for his name, given that Evan had acted arrogantly since entering the room, even releasing some of his aura to intimidate them. He did not expect him to act like this. But he was just a little surprised and soon returned to his senses. I am Boris Throns, the head of the Federation. As long as your request does not harm the people, we will do our best to fulfill it. Evan nodded upon hearing Boris. My request is very simple. He said in a deep voice, I just want information. Information. Anna, one of the S+ rank hunters who had long green hair and was present via projection, raised an eyebrow when she heard Evan. What kind of information do you want? Evan looked at the green-haired woman and replied in a serious tone. Everything. I want information about everything that has happened since the world changed more than 15 years ago. Whether it's about the first dungeon that appeared in Florida in Ray's apartment, or what happened to Ray's body after it exploded into energy waves, I want to know everything. Oh, and by the way, when I say everything, I also mean the things you've never made public and are trying to hide. Like, Evan's gaze turned cold as he looked at all the hunters. Whether there is anyone helping you all increase your power quickly and giving you information about powerful formations and weapons. When Evan mentioned someone possibly helping them increase their power, the faces of some hunters changed slightly. However, a few hunters, including the green-haired woman, remained expressionless as if they had no idea what Evan was talking about. Evan noticed the slight changes in expression on some of the hunters' faces but didn't say anything because as long as they gave him all the information he needed, he didn't care about their affairs. You said you want information about everything strange that has happened since the world changed. Suppose we accept your request, but what will we get in return? Asked the projection of a man clad in black and gold armor as if he were in the middle of a war. What do you mean, what will you get in return? Evan looked at the man in confusion. Didn't I save this entire planet yesterday when those powerful guys came here through the portals? What else do you want? Quote. The faces of all the hunters changed at Evan's words. Although they had already suspected that the black monsters who had taken away all the Glassifern people emerging from the portals were connected to Evan, it had only been a guess. Now that Evan had admitted it himself, they couldn't help but shudder, realizing that Evan wasn't alone and could even control powerful monsters. But despite their shock, they still didn't want to accept his request without getting anything in return. Do you think we're fools? You said you saved the world by stopping those monsters, but anyone with even a little bit of brainpower can guess that those monsters were related to you, a black-haired woman with fair skin spoke coldly. The portals appeared on Earth right after your arrival, and the first portal opened in Antarctica where you were fighting. It's obvious those portals were related to you. Bitcoff, miss, please. Do you think I'm some kind of wanted criminal? Evan said in a flat voice. I know who those people are, but believe it or not, they're not after me. He was about to call her a bitch, right? Valerie's eyes twitched uncontrollably when she heard Evan and she almost laughed out loud. You mean those portals aren't related to you? Boris asked while raising an eyebrow when he heard Evan. Yes, those portals have nothing to do with me. The reason I told you guys to stay away from them is because if anyone else comes out of those portals and you happen to be near them at that time, you wouldn't even get a chance to run away before being killed. Leon's face changed when he heard Evan and he asked in a serious voice. Are you telling the truth? I have no reason to lie to you, Evan said with a shaking his head and was about to continue, but before he could speak further, he received a message from his shadow clone, and a notification flashed in front of his eyes, causing him to pause for a moment. Thanks for watching. Leave a like. See you on the next video.